The canvas lies before you, but the authors ask you to look past the lines and out toward the horizon, where the real treasure waits. For while most companies obsess over existing customers, the greatest opportunities lie with those who are not yet buying at all. This is the power of reaching beyond existing demand. In red oceans, leaders fight desperately for a bigger slice of the same pie. They measure market share, chase loyal buyers, and pour resources into stealing customers from rivals. But blue ocean creators ask a different question. Who are the non-customers? Who sits outside the industry, dissatisfied, uninterested, or excluded? These outsiders are not marginal. They are the majority. And when they are drawn in, entire markets shift. Kim and Mauborgne describe 3 tiers of non-customers. The first are those on the edge, people who occasionally use an industry's offerings but feel little loyalty. They are buyers of convenience, ready to leave at any moment. The second tier consists of people who consciously refuse the industry's offerings. They know about them, but the cost, complexity, or irrelevance keeps them away. The third tier is the most hidden. People who have never considered the industry at all. For them, it has simply never been an option. When Cirque du Soleil reimagined the circus, it reached not only families but adults who would never have set foot in a traditional big top. When Yellowtail simplified wine, it pulled in beer drinkers who had always dismissed wine as pretentious. When Ford released the Model T, it did not just capture wealthy customers from rival automakers. It created a new market of drivers who had previously relied on horses. Each story reveals the same truth. Blue oceans are not built by chasing existing demand, but by awakening new demand. There is something thrilling in this realization. It shifts your gaze from rivalry to possibility. Instead of asking, how do we beat competitors for the same customers? You ask, how do we invite new people into the story? The difference is radical. The first path shrinks your vision. The second expands it endlessly. But this principle is not limited to business. In our own lives, we often fight for attention from the same narrow circle, seeking validation from the same voices, competing for the same opportunities. Yet perhaps the real growth lies outside those circles, in reaching people who have never heard our voice, never seen our work, never considered our path. Like companies, we can either fight for a seat at a crowded table or build a new table altogether. The authors remind us, non-customers are not mysterious. They exist because industries have failed them. Some find current offerings too costly, others too complex, others irrelevant to their needs. By identifying and addressing these pain points, you do not just win customers, you win loyalty born from relief. People remember the company that finally welcomed them in. To make this concrete, think of Apple's iTunes in the early 2000s. Music buyers were not short of CDs, and piracy was rampant. But millions of non-customers, people frustrated by high prices and the inability to buy single tracks, were waiting. Apple created an easy, legal way to buy songs for $1. Overnight, millions who had been outside the market became customers. The blue ocean opened wide. The metaphor of the ocean grows stronger here. In red waters, you circle endlessly, fishing from the same shoal. But in the blue, you sail farther out, where schools of fish untouched by nets move freely. The journey requires courage, but the rewards dwarf what you left behind. Reaching beyond existing demand is not just expansion, it is transformation. It changes how you see people, not as competitors' property, but as humans whose needs are unmet. It changes how you measure success, not by share of the same pie, but by the size of the new feast you create. It changes how you live, not by rivalry, but by invitation. As you gaze at the horizon, you see them. Countless ships anchored near the shore, fighting over the same patch of sea. Yet beyond them, the water teems with life no one else has touched. That is where you must go. That is where blue oceans wait. The horizon opens. Yet the authors remind us, vision without sequence is like a ship without rigging. Even the boldest idea can sink if it is not built in the right order. Here, the blue ocean strategy reveals its discipline, a sequence of steps that transform imagination into sustainable reality. The sequence begins with utility. Before anything else, ask, does this idea truly unlock exceptional value for customers? Not slightly better, not marginally improved, but genuinely transformative. If the answer is no, the journey ends before it begins. Blue oceans are not painted in pale strokes. They are vivid, unmistakable. Without clear utility, no price, no cost structure, no adoption strategy can save the ship. Once utility is proven, the next wave is price. Can the offering be set at a level that attracts the mass of buyers? Too often, companies innovate only for the elite, pricing themselves into irrelevance. The Model T did not succeed because it was a marvel of engineering, though it was. It succeeded because it was priced for the average worker. Blue oceans expand only when the doors are wide enough for the masses to enter. Then comes cost. The strategy must not only deliver value and be priced attractively, but it must be built on a cost structure that ensures profit. This is where elimination and reduction play their part. By stripping away what does not matter, resources are freed to invest where it counts. Profit is not the enemy of blue oceans. It is their anchor. Without it, the ship cannot sail long. Finally, adoption. Even the best idea, priced fairly and built efficiently, can falter if people resist change. Employees may cling to old ways, partners may hesitate, and customers may fear the unfamiliar. Adoption is the human side of strategy, creating trust, removing fear, and making the new offering feel not like a risk, but like a relief. When adoption is secured, the sails catch the wind, and momentum carries the ship forward. The beauty of this sequence lies in its logic: utility, then price, then cost, then adoption. Skip a step, and the voyage collapses. Focus on cost before utility, and you build cheaply what no one wants. Focus on adoption before price, and enthusiasm dies at the barrier of affordability. The order matters, just as a sailor must set mast before sail, sail before rudder. Examples illuminate the pattern. iTunes succeeded because it offered clear utility, easy, legal access to music. Its price point of $0.99 per song opened the market. Costs were kept manageable through digital delivery. Adoption spread quickly as consumers, artists, and labels embraced the platform. Each wave followed the other. The sequence held, and the ocean turned blue. But there are cautionary tales too. Countless innovations have dazzled with brilliance but drowned because the sequence was ignored. Products priced too high for mass adoption. Services with weak utility but heavy marketing. Technologies that arrived before people were ready, left stranded like ships beached on unfamiliar shores. The blue ocean strategy reminds us, boldness without order is chaos. To sail far, the rigging must be precise. This truth echoes beyond business. In life, too, ideas often falter, not because they are bad, but because their sequence is broken. A dream pursued without grounding in value. A passion launched without resources. A change pushed on others before they are ready. Like strategy, life requires rhythm, utility, price, cost, adoption. In simpler words, purpose, accessibility, sustainability, acceptance. Together, these four keep the journey alive. So as you grip the wheel of your ship, you feel the weight of this wisdom. Innovation is not reckless sailing. It is disciplined navigation. The sea is vast, yes, but survival requires sequence. And when each wave is met in order, the voyage does not just continue. It thrives. The author's voice is steady here. like seasoned captains. Blue oceans are not accidents. They are crafted, patiently, step by step. Each element builds on the last until the strategy is not fragile but enduring. When the order is honored, the ship does not fear storms. It rides them. The sea has taught you tools, frameworks, and sequence. But strategy does not live only on charts and compasses. It must live inside people. The authors pause here, turning from grand maps to the crew itself, the human side of sailing blue oceans. Because no matter how brilliant the plan, a ship will not move if its sailors do not believe. They call this fair process. At first the term feels modest, but its power is immense. Fair process means people are not just told what to do. They are involved in shaping the journey. They are given a voice, their concerns heard, their dignity respected. This does not mean everyone gets their way, but it means decisions are transparent, reasoning is explained, and trust is built. Think of an organization that declares a bold new strategy without listening to its people. Resistance rises like hidden reefs. Employees nod outwardly, but withdraw inwardly. Rumors spread, cynicism grows, and the ship stalls before it leaves the harbor. Contrast that with a company where leaders engage their teams, explain the why, and honor input. Even if not every suggestion is adopted, the sense of fairness fuels commitment. People will work harder for a plan they feel part of. Cirque du Soleil's transformation required artists to embrace a new vision of performance. Without trust in leadership, the shift from animals and slapstick to artistry and narrative could have fractured the troupe. Instead, the company involved performers in the creative process, gave them space to innovate, and built a culture of shared ownership. Fair process made the impossible possible. This principle is not soft. It is practical. Research shows that when employees feel excluded or deceived, they sabotage change, sometimes unconsciously. But when they feel respected, even tough decisions are accepted. A sailor will endure storms if they believe in the captain. They will mutiny if they do not. Fair process has 3 pillars: engagement, explanation, and clarity of expectation. Engage people in decisions that affect them. Explain not only what choices are made, but why. And set clear expectations so no one sails in confusion. These are not abstract ideals. They are daily practices. Without them, blue oceans cannot be reached, no matter how perfect the map. But this idea extends further than business. In families, friendships, communities, fairness determines trust. People can handle disappointment if they feel heard. They resist even good news if they feel ignored. The principle of fair process reveals something timeless about human beings. We hunger less for victory than for dignity. As you listen, imagine your own ship. Who are the crew members around you? Employees, colleagues, friends, loved ones? Are they passengers waiting to be told, or partners shaping the voyage? Do they trust the direction, or are they silently skeptical, waiting for the storm to prove them right? Blue oceans cannot be crossed alone. They require a crew that rows with belief, not just compliance. The authors show that when fair process is practiced, something subtle but powerful happens. Trust compounds. With trust, commitment deepens. With commitment, execution strengthens. With execution, strategy becomes reality. The sea, once daunting, becomes navigable because everyone moves together. In red oceans, mistrust is common. Leaders guard information, workers protect themselves, and energy drains into politics. But in blue oceans, transparency and fairness clear the water. Decisions still require courage, but they are carried by collective will. The ship sails not on the force of authority, but on the wind of shared conviction. So the lesson is clear. Strategy is not only analysis, it is human. Without fair process, even the sharpest plan falters. With it, even imperfect maps can lead to discovery. The ocean rewards not just vision, but trust. And when trust is built, the ship does not merely move, it surges. The voyage has carried you deep into uncharted waters. The sails are strong, the crew committed, and the horizon open. Yet the authors offer a sobering truth. No blue ocean lasts forever. Like all seas, they shift. What is calm today may churn tomorrow. Rivals eventually notice. They adapt, they imitate, and soon the once blue water begins to redden. Renewal, then, becomes not just a strategy, but survival. This does not mean the dream fades. It means the voyage must continue. Companies that stop creating become trapped again in the cycle of competition. The question is not whether the ocean will change, but whether you will change before it does. Think of Apple's iTunes. At first, it was a brilliant blue ocean, simple, legal, affordable access to music. But the tides shifted. Competitors rose, streaming replaced downloading, and suddenly the ocean darkened. Apple could have clung to iTunes and fought in the red waters. Instead, it launched Apple Music, shifting into streaming to renew its blue. The lesson: yesterday's innovation cannot guarantee tomorrow's freedom. The authors point to a pattern. Blue oceans emerge, flourish, then attract rivals. What matters is building the capacity to create again, not clinging to one victory. The spirit of renewal is what separates pioneers from relics. Cirque du Soleil, for example, did not freeze after its first triumph. It continued to evolve with new shows, fresh artistic blends, always seeking what audiences had not yet seen. Renewal kept its waters blue. This renewal requires vigilance. Leaders must sense when differentiation begins to fade, when cost advantages shrink, when rivals catch up. They must ask, again and again, what can we eliminate, reduce, raise, and create now? The 4 actions framework is not a one-time tool, but a rhythm to be repeated. The strategy canvas is not a chart to frame, but a map to redraw. The voyage never ends. But renewal is not only about business, it is about life. How often do we find ourselves clinging to old successes, repeating patterns that once worked but no longer serve? We replay the same victories, hold to the same habits, stay anchored in waters that once were fresh but now are stale. Renewal demands courage, the courage to let go of what made us safe and to venture again into the unknown. The authors remind us, red oceans will always return if you do not move. Competition will always crowd back in. The only protection is perpetual creation. This is not exhaustion, but liberation. For once you accept that the sea is always shifting, you stop fearing change. You begin to see it as natural, even necessary. There is a humility in this truth. No company is invincible. No blue ocean is eternal. The goal is not to dominate forever, but to keep discovering, to keep moving, to keep the spirit of exploration alive. The sea teaches us this: the horizon is endless, and so must be our willingness to sail. Picture your ship now. Behind you, the waters you once opened are filling with others. But ahead, the blue stretches wide once more. Renewal means lifting your gaze, adjusting your sails, and steering toward the next opening. It is not failure to move on. It is wisdom. In business, in careers, in life, the question is not, how long can I hold this place, but where is the next horizon? Renewal frees us from clinging to the past. It invites us to live in motion, always creating, always exploring, always sailing. So the authors leave us here with a paradox. The only way to sustain a blue ocean is to let it go, and to create another. The sea rewards those who keep moving. Stagnation is the true enemy. Renewal is the eternal art. The waves quiet as the journey nears its close. You have seen the blood of red oceans and the promise of blue. You have learned of value innovation, the compass, the 4 actions framework, the winds. the strategy canvas, the chart, the sequence, the rigging, and fair process, the heart of the crew. You have seen how renewal keeps waters from turning red again. And now, the authors leave you with something larger than business, a mindset, a way of being in the world. The mindset of endless seas begins with imagination. To see a blue ocean at all, you must first believe it exists. Most people never look past the crowded shoreline. They assume competition is destiny. They spend their lives in comparison, struggling in waters already full. But a few lift their eyes, and in doing so, they glimpse what others cannot: the vast expanse of the unexplored. This act of vision is the beginning of freedom, yet imagination alone is fragile. The mindset requires courage. Courage to leave behind the familiar red waves, even when they feel safer. It is tempting to remain where the rules are known, where maps already exist, even if the waters are hostile. But the blue ocean demands risk, faith, and movement into uncertainty. It asks you to step into possibility, not proof. And then comes creation. To live with the mindset of endless seas is to see yourself not as a competitor but as a creator. You are not here to outdo others, but to bring forth something new, something resonant, something no one else imagined. In business, this means products and services that reshape industries. In life, it means choices that align with your deepest values, paths that are yours alone. Think of the individuals who have embodied this. Steve Jobs, reimagining technology not as machines, but as tools for creativity and beauty. Oprah Winfrey, transforming talk shows into platforms for empathy and empowerment. Muhammad Yunus, redefining banking with microfinance, opening credit to the poor. Each of these was a blue ocean, not perfect, not eternal, but proof of what happens when one refuses to swim in red waters. But the mindset also requires humility. The sea is vast, and no one can master it completely. Each blue ocean, no matter how dazzling, will eventually fade. The point is not to cling, but to keep moving, to see creation as a rhythm rather than a single act. Those who embrace this live lightly, ready to let go of old victories and reach for new horizons. The metaphor of the ocean becomes deeply personal here. In your own journey, there will always be red waters, workplaces where competition suffocates, environments where comparison drains joy, relationships where rivalry overshadows love. But there will also be blue seas, opportunities to create, to innovate, to step into spaces where you are not measured against others, but discovered by yourself. The choice is always there. Not easy, but present. The authors close with a challenge disguised as an invitation. Do not accept the red as your only ocean. There are seas untraveled, customers unserved, ideas unborn, parts of yourself unexplored. The horizon is wide, and it belongs to those who dare to sail. So you stand once more at the bow of your ship, the sea stretching infinite. Behind you, crowded waters. Before you, endless blue. The compass points steady. The winds are ready. The crew believes. You breathe in, steady and certain. The ocean does not ask you to fight. It asks you to create. And with that, you sail on. Not toward victory over others, but toward discovery of what lies beyond. The horizon glows with promise, and the sea itself seems to whisper, there will always be another blue. Be another blue. Be another blue. Be welcome. Tonight let's set sail together. Imagine yourself drifting on a small boat in the middle of a vast ocean. The water stretches endlessly in every direction, yet the surface is divided in colors. To your left, the water is red, dark, and turbulent. Waves crash against each other as if in battle, and beneath, shadows circle, predators, competitors, all locked in a relentless struggle. This is where most companies live, a space so crowded with rivalry that survival feels like fighting with teeth and claws. The authors call this the Red Ocean, and it is here that blood from countless battles stains the sea. If you find this summary helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to BookSnap, and comment below the title of the book you'd like us to summarize next. We'll make it happen soon. Now, let us return to that ocean. The red waters represent industries as we know them, markets defined by boundaries everyone accepts as unchangeable. Companies swim here like schools of fish, competing for the same prey, the same customers. Every move you make is mirrored by someone else. Prices get slashed, margins shrink, and innovation becomes imitation. It's a brutal race where the reward for victory often feels hollow, because even when you rise above, there is always another competitor ready to drag you back down. Think of an airline slashing fares, only to see rivals cut deeper. Think of mobile phone companies adding features faster than they can be marketed, but each feature quickly copied until nothing feels new. In these waters, progress is incremental. Survival depends on endurance, not vision. It is exhausting, and it is dangerous. But the human heart longs for more than survival. We are not built merely to endure battles, but to transcend them. And so, the story of Blue Ocean Strategy begins by asking a question that echoes in every ambitious mind. Must we always fight in red waters? Or is there another way? Look closely again at the sea. Beyond the crimson turbulence, there is another expanse, calm, serene, endless. The waves roll gently, carrying a sense of freedom, possibility, and unexplored promise. That is the blue ocean. It is not free of challenge, but it is free of rivalry. There are no competitors circling you, no shadows lurking to devour what you build. Here, the horizon stretches wide, and the rules have yet to be written. The book begins by holding up this contrast. Red oceans are familiar, crowded, and known. Blue oceans are uncharted, fresh, and waiting. The great tension of strategy lies in this contrast. Most leaders stay trapped in red waters because they believe there is no other option. The authors argue otherwise. They invite us to imagine creating new markets instead of fighting for old ones. They challenge us to think not about beating competition, but about making it irrelevant. Pause and reflect. In your own life, how often do you find yourself in red oceans? Places where energy is drained by competition, where your value is determined by comparison, where success comes at someone else's expense. Maybe it's in your career, where advancement feels like a zero-sum game. Maybe it's in your business, where margins disappear as you fight to keep up. Perhaps even in personal aspirations, where every step forward seems to trigger another wave of resistance. That is the trap of the red ocean. It is real, but it is not the only sea. The reason this book resonates so deeply is that it offers a vision, one that goes beyond business strategy and speaks to a universal hunger. It whispers, what if there is a place where you don't have to fight, where you can create, where the field belongs to you alone? To understand this, the authors draw on decades of research. They studied industries across more than a century, tracing why some companies stagnated while others broke free. Again and again, the pattern revealed itself. The most extraordinary success stories did not come from competing better in the same space. They came from creating new spaces altogether. But before that revelation can fully inspire, we must sit with the pain of the red ocean a little longer. Because to feel the urgency of change, you must feel the weight of staying the same. Picture a business executive, late at night, staring at quarterly reports. Every gain is erased by a competitor's counterattack. Every innovation is matched within months. The cycle is endless, and the question rises, is this all there is? The truth is, in red oceans, no one wins for long. Competition drives value down for customers, profit down for companies, and hope down for everyone caught in the middle. It is a battlefield disguised as a marketplace, and while battle may excite, it rarely nourishes. The opening chapter of Blue Ocean's strategy forces us to confront this reality, not with despair, but with clarity. You cannot change the ocean if you do not first see its color. And once you see the red, you begin to long for the blue. So, we close this first step with a vision, a boat leaving behind the crimson waves, gliding toward calm waters that shimmer under the morning sun. The air smells fresher, the horizon feels wider, and possibility itself seems to expand. This is not fantasy. It is strategy. And it begins when you stop accepting competition as destiny and start asking what might lie beyond it. The horizon beckons. You watch as the red waters fall behind, and for the first time the sea around you turns a pure, open blue. No splashes of struggle, no trails of blood. Just space. Endless space. This is the image that Kim and Renée Mauborgne call the blue ocean. But it is not a dream, and it is not naive optimism. It is a different way of seeing markets, one that changes everything. The call of the blue ocean is the call of possibility. Imagine standing on the shore while everyone else gathers around a small crowded pool, fighting over the same fish. Their voices rise in argument, their nets tear, their catch shrinks. Yet when you lift your gaze to the vast sea, you realize there are waters untouched, teeming with life, waiting for someone bold enough to sail out. That moment of recognition is what the book tries to gift its readers, the courage to look away from rivalry and toward creation. But what exactly is a blue ocean? It is not a new product in an old market. It is not just being slightly better than competitors. It is the creation of new demand where none existed. It is reshaping the boundaries of value so thoroughly that others cannot follow in the same way. A blue ocean is defined not by winning a battle, but by rewriting the game itself. Think of the companies that have stirred imagination across history. Southwest Airlines, for example, did not compete with other airlines in offering fancier meals or larger seats. Instead, it redefined air travel by making flying as simple and affordable as a bus ride, unlocking an entirely new group of customers who had never flown before. It did not steal customers. It created them. Or Cirque du Soleil, which we will revisit later. It did not aim to outshine traditional circuses with bigger animals or louder clowns. It eliminated much of what circuses had clung to, while raising artistry, storytelling, and theater. The result was not a better circus. It was something different altogether. A new form of entertainment that drew both theatergoers and families. When you see this pattern, you begin to understand the call of the blue ocean. It is not about fighting harder, but about daring to ask, what if the fight itself is unnecessary? What if the energy spent on outmatching others could be spent on creating something entirely fresh? But here lies the difficulty. The blue ocean feels uncertain. It requires imagination, and imagination is risky. Leaders often cling to the red ocean because at least it is familiar. They understand the rules, even if those rules are punishing. Venturing into the blue requires the willingness to be misunderstood, to step where no data can fully guide you, and to trust that possibility exists where no map yet points. Kim and Mauborgne remind us that all industries we now take for granted were once blue oceans. Automobiles, once strange toys for the wealthy, became mass-market revolutions. Personal computers, dismissed as hobbyist gadgets, reshaped entire economies. Streaming services, mocked at their birth, now define how we consume culture. Every red ocean we see today was once a blue one, opened by those who dared to look beyond. So the book whispers again, if the markets you see feel crowded, maybe you are not meant to stay there. Maybe your destiny lies not in squeezing into an old frame, but in building a new canvas. There is also a personal resonance here. Each of us has our own red oceans, spaces where we compete endlessly for approval, for recognition, for scarce opportunities. We fight to be seen in the same limited pool. Yet life, like business, holds blue oceans too. Paths no one has walked before, where your uniqueness is not compared but celebrated. The metaphor stretches beyond strategy into the way we live, reminding us that creation is more fulfilling than rivalry. But the authors do not leave us with metaphor alone. They offer a compass. The blue ocean strategy is not just poetry. It is a systematic approach, grounded in research across industries and decades. They show us patterns, tools, and frameworks that guide us from vision to execution. The blue ocean is real, but it must be charted with clarity, not just hope. As you drift further from the crowded red waves, you begin to feel a sense of relief. No longer are you looking over your shoulder at rivals. Instead, your gaze turns forward, to horizons untouched. It is a quieter place, but also more daring. The blue ocean is not safe, but it is alive with opportunity. And so, the book asks you to listen to that call. Not just with your ears, but with your ambition. Can you hear it? The whisper that says there is more to business than competing, more to success than beating others, more to life than comparison? That whisper is the sound of the waves turning blue. As the water calms around you, the horizon opens wider, and a compass is placed in your hand. It points not north or south, but towards something deeper, a principle called value innovation. This is the heart of the blue ocean strategy, the secret engine that powers its voyages. Without it, you may drift endlessly. With it, you carve a path no one else has yet imagined. Value innovation begins by breaking a false choice. For centuries, businesses have been told they must choose: either pursue differentiation, which raises costs but creates uniqueness, or pursue low cost, which sacrifices uniqueness but allows affordability. It is the age-old trade-off: quality or price, never both. But in the blue ocean, this trade-off dissolves. The genius is to pursue differentiation and low cost simultaneously, so that while you raise value for customers, you also strip away waste, excess, and assumptions that burden the industry. Picture it like building a ship. In red oceans, competitors compete by adding heavier cannons, thicker armor, taller masts, until the ship grows so heavy it can barely move. Another group competes by stripping everything down, making the ship so bare that it floats but offers no joy to those aboard. Value innovation builds differently. It rethinks the ship entirely. Instead of piling on or tearing away, it designs something lighter yet stronger, simpler yet more appealing, at once delightful and efficient. One of the clearest examples is Nintendo's Wii console. At a time when Sony and Microsoft battled for supremacy with cutting-edge graphics, expensive processors, and heavy features, Nintendo took a different route. They eliminated the obsession with raw power and instead created motion-based play, something simple, affordable, and yet emotionally compelling. Suddenly, families, seniors, and people who had never touched a video game before joined the market. Nintendo did not compete harder. It created value differently. This principle is not limited to technology or entertainment. Consider Ford's Model T. When other car makers were building ever more luxurious, costly vehicles for the wealthy, Ford eliminated luxury features, standardized parts, and focused on efficiency. The result was not a better car for the rich, but a car for everyone. It was simpler, cheaper, and yet, paradoxically, more revolutionary. That is value innovation in motion. At its core, value innovation is about looking past what the industry assumes must be done. Must airlines compete on meals and lounges? Must wine companies overwhelm customers with complexity? Must hospitals deliver care only within rigid walls? When these assumptions are questioned, opportunities emerge to strip away what does not truly add value and to elevate or create what does. But there is also a personal truth hidden here. In life, we too often accept trade-offs that are not real. We think we cannot be creative and practical, ambitious and at peace, successful and fulfilled. Yet the principle of value innovation whispers otherwise. Perhaps the limits are not as fixed as we imagine. Perhaps the way forward is not to choose between, but to transcend the choice itself. The authors remind us that companies trapped in red oceans tend to obsess over benchmarking. They compare themselves against rivals, trying to match or exceed feature by feature. But benchmarking is like staring at the wake of another ship. It tells you where they've been, not where you could go. Value innovation demands you look forward, into the open water, and ask what customers truly need, not what competitors already provide. Imagine standing on the deck of your boat, compass in hand. The needle points toward a horizon where customers are not asking for more of the same, but for something meaningful, something that solves their problems in unexpected ways. That is the pull of value innovation. And when a company answers this call, it is not merely offering a product. It is offering relief. Relief from overcomplexity, from high costs, from frustrations customers have silently endured. It is offering delight, something fresh and intuitive. It is building loyalty not by trapping customers, but by liberating them. This is why blue oceans, once opened, can be so powerful. Customers do not just buy, they evangelize. They do not just consume, they participate. The bond is stronger because it is not forged in the weary ground of comparison, but in the excitement of discovery. As you listen to the waves lapping against your boat, you realize this compass, value innovation, is not simply about strategy. It is about courage. The courage to step outside the invisible prison of trade-offs. The courage to ask if both can be achieved, when the world says only one is possible. It is about refusing to accept the limits handed down by tradition, and instead, daring to create a new equation where everyone wins: the company, the customer, and even society at large. So, as you sail deeper into the blue, the lesson takes root. The path is not to fight harder in familiar waters, nor to sacrifice one treasure for another. The path is to innovate value itself, to chart a course where cost and differentiation no longer clash but align. With this compass guiding you, the ocean feels less daunting. For now, you are not lost. You are navigating. The sea around you glimmers, but even with a compass, you need a map. The authors place one before you, a simple but transformative tool: the 4 actions framework. It is drawn not as complex theories or endless spreadsheets, but as 4 sharp questions, like winds from each direction, pushing you to rethink everything you know. The first wind asks, what can we eliminate? In every industry, traditions pile up like barnacles on a ship. Features, services, and assumptions once useful become heavy weights, dragging performance down. Circuses kept costly animal acts for decades, long after their appeal faded. Airlines offered meals and lounges long after customers stopped caring. Elimination is not loss, it is liberation. It is the courage to cut away what no longer serves. The second wind asks, what can we reduce? Not every element must vanish, but some can be scaled back. Wine producers used to overwhelm buyers with endless jargon about vineyards, tannins, and vintages, leaving casual drinkers confused. One company, Yellowtail, reduced the complexity, focusing on simplicity and fun. By lowering the emphasis on tradition, they opened the market to millions who just wanted a glass of approachable wine. Reduction pares down the excess so clarity can shine. The third wind asks, what can we raise? In red oceans, rivals often keep features at a mediocre level, unwilling to go further because costs seem high. But raising certain aspects can flip the game entirely. When Southwest Airlines cut away meals and lounges, it raised reliability and frequency. Flights became so dependable that travelers trusted it as much as they trusted the bus. Raising certain elements creates delight where frustration once ruled. And then comes the final wind, perhaps the most creative. What can we create? This is where blue oceans truly open. Creation means offering something the industry has never seen. Cirque du Soleil created artistry, live music, and narrative in a space once dominated by slapstick and animal tricks. Nintendo created motion-based play. Starbucks created the cafe experience, turning coffee from a commodity into a community. Creation is not evolution, it is revolution, born from asking what customers never dared to request because they didn't know it was possible. The 4 actions framework is simple, but simplicity is its genius. When applied, it reshapes strategy from the ground up. Imagine sketching your industry on a canvas. Each element, price, service, features, reliability, is drawn as a line. With elimination, reduction, raising, and creation, you redraw that line until it no longer resembles the competition. Suddenly, the picture is fresh. Suddenly, the sea is blue. But behind this framework lies a mindset shift. To use it, you must be willing to question sacred cows. You must accept that what has always been offered may no longer be needed. You must see with fresh eyes not only what can be added, but more importantly, what can be stripped away. Innovation is not about piling on. It is about clearing space so something new can breathe. Think of your own life. What have you carried for years simply because others did? What traditions, habits, or expectations weigh you down, though they no longer serve you? If you were to apply these 4 questions to yourself, what would you eliminate? What would you reduce? What would you raise? What would you create? In this way, the blue ocean strategy becomes not just business advice, but a mirror for self-reflection. The authors tell us that most strategies fail not because people lack effort, but because they cling to assumptions. Industries trap themselves inside invisible walls, insisting that customers must want what they've always been given. The 4 actions framework is the hammer that breaks those walls. It is the permission to say, maybe customers do not need all of this. Maybe they want something else entirely. And once those walls fall, you feel it. The rush of wind, the opening of new waters. Suddenly, you are not competing on the same tired features. You are rewriting the rules of value itself. Competitors cannot copy you easily because your map is not their map. You are no longer a player in their game. You are the creator of your own. The framework is not glamorous. It is 4 questions on paper. Yet in the hands of a leader with vision, it becomes a weapon against stagnation, a lantern in the fog of competition, a sail catching winds others ignore. With it, you move beyond mere survival and step into creation. And as your ship leans into these 4 winds, eliminate, reduce, raise, create, the ocean around you feels alive. You realize the map is not for finding a path that already exists. It is for drawing a new one. The map is clear in your hand, yet theory remains lifeless until someone dares to act. The authors know this, and so they tell stories, living proof that the 4 actions framework and value innovation are not abstract ideas, but choices that reshape industries. And among those stories, none shines brighter than Cirque du Soleil. Picture the circus before Cirque. Faded tents pitched on the edges of towns. Lions caged and coaxed into tricks. Clowns painted in broad, tired strokes. Audiences dwindling. Children distracted by new forms of entertainment. Parents weary of recycled shows. It was a red ocean in its purest form. High costs, fierce rivalry, and a shrinking pool of interest. For most, the circus was dying. But Cirque du Soleil asked different questions. What if the animals were eliminated? What if the slapstick was reduced? What if artistry and music were raised? What if a new form of live performance were created, one that blended the wonder of circus with the sophistication of theater? By stripping away costs that circuses had long assumed unavoidable, and raising elements ignored by the industry, Cirque created something the world had never seen. It was no longer a circus. It was no longer theater. It was something new, something magnetic, something that drew in audiences from across the globe. This is the essence of breaking from the competition. Cirque did not compete with Barnum and Bailey for cheaper tickets or bigger acts. It made them irrelevant. The game changed so thoroughly that traditional circuses could not even enter the same arena. The blue ocean opened, and Cirque sailed alone. Look at another industry: airlines. Most companies clawed at each other for frequent flyers, layering services on top of already thin margins. But Southwest Airlines ignored the game entirely. They eliminated meals and lounges, reduced unnecessary frills, raised efficiency and frequency, and created a culture of fun and reliability. The result was not better air travel for existing customers. It was affordable flying for people who once traveled only by car or bus. A new market of travelers was born. In each of these stories, the same pattern unfolds. The boldest companies do not ask how to outdo competitors. They ask how to escape them. They seek customers who are not yet served, or who have turned away in frustration. They design not for rivalry, but for resonance. And the rewards are not measured only in profit. Breaking from competition creates energy, momentum, and loyalty that red ocean strategies can never match. Customers feel it. Employees feel it. The marketplace feels it. It is as if fresh air enters an industry long suffocated by sameness. The book makes clear that this courage is rare. Many leaders, even when shown the path, retreat into the safety of rivalry. They copy features, slash prices, and call it innovation. But imitation is a race to the bottom. Creation is a climb to higher ground. The difference lies in daring to abandon the rules everyone else takes for granted. Think of it personally. How often do you find yourself trying to be better than others, rather than being different? In school, in work, even in relationships, the instinct is to compare and compete. But what if you stopped asking how to outshine, and instead asked how to transcend? What if you created your own space, where no one could measure you, because the yardstick itself was new? That is the spirit of blue oceans. Cirque du Soleil, Southwest Airlines, Yellowtail Wine, each became symbols of this courage. They did not wait for permission. They did not ask customers what they wanted, because customers could not imagine what they had never seen. Instead, these pioneers built something that answered unspoken desires, needs that lay dormant beneath the surface. And once the audience tasted it, there was no turning back. The red ocean felt too shallow, too limited. The blue felt expansive, exciting, alive. This is what breaking from the competition means. Not a small edge, but a complete escape. Not fighting harder, but sailing freer. The stories remind us it is possible. The waters are real. And when you dare to move, the ocean responds. You sail further, and now the sea takes shape not just as water, but as a chart spread across the deck. The authors call it the strategy canvas, and it is not simply a diagram. It is a way of seeing what others cannot see, a navigator's chart that reveals where you are trapped and where freedom lies. Picture it. Along the horizontal axis stretch the factors that every industry competes on: price, quality, features, service, advertising. Along the vertical axis rises the level of investment and emphasis each company places on these factors. Plot the lines for every rival, and you see something striking. Their curves almost overlap. Competitors mirror one another so tightly that their differences blur. They are locked in the same game, rowing in parallel, each expending more energy but going nowhere new. This is the red ocean drawn in ink. Now imagine drawing your own line, not a mirror of theirs, but a curve that bends away, rising where others stay flat, falling where others waste energy. That is the moment of revelation. When you realize you do not have to follow the same contours, you can redraw the industry's shape entirely. Take Southwest Airlines again. On a traditional strategy canvas, airlines competed heavily on meals, lounges, and seat classes. Southwest's line dropped low there, almost to zero. But on factors like price, frequency, and reliability, the line soared. The curve no longer resembled a competitor's. It created a new picture, one customers had never seen before. Or consider Yellowtail wine. Traditional winemakers emphasized heritage, complexity, and a vast range of choices. Yellowtail's canvas stripped those down, dropping the curve low. Instead, it raised fun, approachability, and simplicity. Suddenly, wine was not intimidating. It was playful, easy, social. The curve diverged, and the ocean turned blue. The strategy canvas is more than a tool. It is a mirror. It forces leaders to face the sameness they often deny. They believe their strategies are unique, yet when drawn, the lines reveal imitation disguised as differentiation. The canvas does not flatter. It exposes. And in that exposure lies the chance to change. There is something almost spiritual in this. How often in life do we think we are charting our own course, when in reality, we are tracing someone else's? We follow the lines handed down by tradition, family, or society. We invest energy in features of our identity that matter only because everyone else competes on them. The canvas whispers, "What if you dared to draw differently?" But the author's caution: divergence alone is not enough. A new curve must deliver value, not just novelty. To bend the line recklessly is to confuse the customer, not liberate them. The art lies in reshaping the curve so that it speaks directly to unserved desires, hidden frustrations, unspoken needs. This is why the canvas matters so deeply. It is both diagnostic and creative. It shows you where energy is wasted in crowded waters, and it guides you toward waters no one else has sailed. It becomes a navigator's chart, not toward rivals, but toward resonance. Imagine yourself bent over that chart on the deck of your ship. You see the overlapping lines of the industry, crisscrossed in tight formation. Then your pen moves. You drop some lines low, strip away costs and clutter. You raise others high, lifting joy and clarity. The shape changes. Suddenly, you are not just adjusting your ship's sails. You are plotting an entirely new route. And here, another truth emerges. The strategy canvas is not about erasing the past. It is about seeing it clearly enough to move beyond it. Without the chart, you are blind. With it, you see the trap of similarity, and you hold the freedom to diverge. As the ink dries on the canvas, the ocean before you expands. The red waters fade further behind, and the blue grows brighter. You feel less like a competitor and more like a creator. The horizon is no longer filled with rivals' ships. It is wide open. The canvas is not the journey itself, but it is the chart that makes the journey possible. Makes the journey possible. Makes the journey possible. Makes the journey possible. Makes the